his entire career period. So 964 career games that Doug Jarvis played in from October 8th of 1975 to October 10th of 1987. So in a span of 12 years, Doug Jarvis never missed a game. And probably about the same time frame, 12 years, Keith Yandel hasn't missed a game. I don't see athletes anymore that go more than almost 24 games without sitting out one because of an injury of some kind. That is unheard of.
Right.
And Keith Yandel has jumped around from team to team.
Yeah.
This streak has started on March 26th of 2009 when he was with what was then the Phoenix Coyotes. He played in 1,075 games with them, including when they switched to their current name, the Arizona Coyotes. He then later played for the New York Rangers, then got bounced to the Florida Panthers until he was finally traded to the Philadelphia Flyers. So from 2009 to the current present day of 2022, this guy hasn't missed a game.
Jeez.
That is an absolute incredible milestone that you have got to keep your body in shape for, and I really don't know how he does it.
Well, yeah. Playing that long in that many games, it's definitely hard to do.
I props to him for keeping shape and playing the sport that he loves for regardless of what may be. I my hat's off to you, Keith.
Yeah.
Speaking of Coyotes, there's some news bouncing around in Arizona. Have you heard about that?
About them wanting to have a temporary home?
Yeah. At
Yep.
what price? There's not going to. This is a joke. A standard NHL arena has about 20,000 seats.
Yep.
And because of the debt that they were in, they might have to find a new home. So there was some phone calls made that they want to use the Arizona State Hockey Arena as their temporary home for next year. The Arizona State Arena only holds 5,000 people.
Ugh. Yeah. That.
You don't get 5,000 people to a basketball game.
Nope.
You get That's like a student section for a college basketball game, 5,000 people. How are you going to fit an entire fan base in one arena with that low seating?
Well, exactly. uh,
However, due to the NCAA rules, the Coyotes would not be allowed to use ASU's hockey arena if the contract in negotiation ends up falling flat on their face, which means they would have to build their own arena, which would already cost them between 15 and 20 million dollars.
right.
You were $100 million in debt. How are you going to find 20 million to build a new arena?
Well, yeah. Unless if they don't plan on paying back what they already owe.
Canada's looking more and more like it's going to get a new hockey team, doesn't it, Arizona? Sure looks that way.
Yeah, that's what it's starting to look like to me too.
Starting to think the state of Arizona is kicking hockey out the window. They don't want you no more.
Yep. I definitely agree with that 100%. That if, like you said, they don't fulfill what they owe, they're gonna be out the door and without a place to play.
With our final topic of hockey, we're going to end on a good note. Uh, you recognize the name Wes McCauley, don't you?
Yeah.
As most hockey players and fans are well aware, Wes McCauley is one of the most personable and joyous, most entertaining refs you can have in the game. However, the name you don't hear of very often is a name by the name of Dean Morton, the longtime referee of the NHL, just officiated his last game uh, about a week ago, where it was between the New York Islanders and the Los Angeles Kings.
Okay.
After he announced his plan to retire, at the end of the game, both teams said their goodbyes. And in this video that we're about to show, we'll tell you exactly how these players feel about Dean Morton. Enjoy.
Let me get it up. That was the Dean Lewis comments to.
No, Dean Morton receives a thoughtful send off.
Why am I? Oh, there it is. All right. Let me pause it. Oh, I said pause. Sound that and show that. No, that. Yeah, he was definitely loved by a lot. He did his job and did it well.
Yeah, and you can see the smile on his face throughout this video that having a thank you like that really does mean a lot because when you get that kind of respect and a send off from both teams, there's really a couple impressions that you made. One, you are very well respected in the league by both players and coaches
Right.
because you were there with them. You did that with them and they didn't notice you on the ice. And when they did, it was because of the personality that you have and the relationships that you give to those players. Talking to them on the ice, whether it's before a face-off, cracking a joke to the goaltender when it's a TV timeout, or just talking about where you're going to go for dinner. It's like when you have those types of referees, players are going to respect you more when you make a call and just be okay with it rather than try to argue it because they know that you're a personable guy and you do make mistakes. You
Right.
later on they might say to you after the game, "Yeah, that was my bad. I made a mistake. I'm sorry." And that means a lot more to a player than it does when you don't even say anything and be like, "Just go to the box and sit for 2 minutes."
Right.
Dean Morton has been an NHL referee for a long time, and he's worked several games with Wes McCauley. And there's no doubt in my mind that Wes has been rubbed off on some of these young referees that are coming into the league. They want to be like him. Hell, if I was a referee, hockey referee, I'd want to be exactly like those two. That'd be fun. Going around doing your job correctly, but also having a great relationship with the players. You're welcoming you're welcoming into that arena with open arms. Coaches will look at the roster going, "Who's the official tonight?" "Oh, it's Wes McCauley. We're gonna have a great game." Whether it be as, "Oh man, we got this guy. Man, this is gonna suck."
Yeah, exactly. They know it's going to be a fair game, and that the fact of the matter is, um, they're going to be out there and be able to. Their players are going to be able to do their job and not have to worry about is this guy going to screw this game up or anything like that.
Yeah. So I firmly believe that the longer that we have those types of referees in the league, the more good that we will have going through the NHL.
Exactly. I totally agree with you 100% with that. All right. With that being said, big news coming out of the NFL towards the end of the season, not just with this one person in particular, but a certain other person that some would idolize, some wouldn't, but Big Ben has retired from the NFL, but not just Big Ben. Recently, in the beginning of the week, Tom Brady had officially announced his retirement as well.
And these two topics are basically going to be combined into one. You have two of the most outstanding quarterbacks from their time era retiring around the same time. Now, granted, Big Ben came into the league 4 years after Tom did, but he's still one of the greatest quarterbacks that Pittsburgh's ever had. And what I don't appreciate is, and Tom said this on his podcast earlier on, is that when he said he thought about retiring, everybody took that into proportion like, yup, he's already made his decision. Let's blow it up so that we can be the first one to report it and get the credit that Tom Brady's going to retire.
Well, yeah, and then come to find out he hadn't even really announced it neither.
No, he specifically told his agent early last week that he was going to think about it and discuss what his options were.
Right.
And Adam Schefter, who looked like an ass a couple days later, already announced that he was going to retire. So that made Sports Center be everything about Tom Brady. That made top plays be all about Tom Brady. That made the morning get up, first take, all these sports shows all about Tom Brady when he hasn't even retired yet.
Yep.
But a couple days ago, he made the announcement on Instagram and made it official after discussing it with his family, his agent, and himself. And finally, everything can be at peace. But again, I firmly believe that a lot of those sports, and whoever broke that story first is going to be an ass forever. Because you look like an idiot for a whole week simply because you wanted to get credit first.
Right.
Don't get the facts before you break a story. This is what this world's coming to right now is you want to be the first to get credit before you even have all the facts.
Yeah. And then they just end up looking like a complete moron out there, to be politically correct, that they had to come back and say, well, we jumped the gun. He didn't actually retire. And now that he has retired, they can reproduce those articles and everything else that, oh yeah, he retired, even though everybody has already read those articles and they didn't really have to change anything on him because they jumped the gun the way they did.
Yeah. But anyways, I got off on my rant. Tom Brady was one of the best quarterbacks of his time era, and I do believe that he would be in the Hall of Fame when his time is able to be on the ballot. Uh, but let's turn it over to Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Agreed.
He played 18 seasons as the starting QB of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 18 consecutive years as the starting QB. If you were the backup, I hope you were paying attention because this dude can teach you a lot.
Yes, he can. He
Ben,
for what he did for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, granted, I'm not a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. He's done tremendous for that team in that 18 years. He's taken them to the playoffs. He's won Super Bowls over there, and he's going to have whoever gets the starting position is definitely going to have big shoes to fill because Big Ben will be missed over there, but it definitely is his time to retire. He knows it, and I'm glad to see he's not trying to do what Tom Brady did and go to another team to see if he still has it. He knew when to hang up the cleats, and he definitely made the right decision.
Absolutely. Uh, the 39-year-old finished what is likely a Hall of Fame career with 2 Super Bowl wins, a Rookie of the Year honors in his, and the fifth most passing yards in NFL history with 64,088. When I when I think about Big Ben, you identify and you are presented with a Pittsburgh Steeler. Coach Bill Cowher said, Ben Roethlisberger is the definition of a Pittsburgh Steeler. You played with grit, determination, and a degree of toughness. I congratulate you on a job well done, and without a doubt, I will see you in Canton. Kudos.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, part of me wishes that they could have sent him off with one more Super Bowl, but at the same time, seeing who's in the Super Bowl, I'm glad that it's not Pittsburgh because it's two teams that hasn't seen a Super Bowl in a long time.
Yeah, and one of the memories that I can remember, I believe it was last year when Pittsburgh played Tampa Bay, and there was already discussions about if Ben Roethlisberger was going to retire after that game. But after the game, Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger all had their kids on the field, and Ben was tossing to Tom's kids, and Tom was passing to Ben's kids. The type of relationship that you have with another player for that long says a lot about who you are
Well, exactly.
and how much respect you have throughout the league. Like you have one of the best, most respected quarterbacks that other players really wanted to play against because he was a competitor, but he was respectful about it.
Well, exactly.
I'm I can't wait to see how Pittsburgh is next year because I'm almost certain that whoever steps up to be that next quarterback is going to have just an ounce of Ben in him because of what he learned. And I'm curious to see that on the field.
I am too, for the simple fact that if he was paying attention, we're going to see a lot of Ben Roethlisberger in him. But if he wasn't paying attention, Pittsburgh's going to have um, some problems coming their way because they're going to be used to the Ben Roethlisberger um, mentality and everything. And if that doesn't happen, they're in severe trouble.
Yeah, they could be in an early rebuild situation if that happens. And I don't think I don't want Pittsburgh to have that already.
Yeah, if that happens, they're gonna be the Detroit Lions of the AFC.
We don't need another team like that.
Exactly. I totally agree with you on that. They definitely do not need a team that is pretty much like the Detroit Lions. I mean, you we've both been through it, and that's something that is going to hurt them in the long run.
Oh, absolutely. Which brings us to our next topics. Pat, Matthew Stafford, excuse me. There's all these jokes since Matthew Stafford did yet another fourth quarter comeback for a Super Bowl berth.
Yep.
Can this kid do anything wrong? Apparently not. But everybody keeps saying, "Oh, if Detroit," and this is a joke, but it's hilarious. If Detroit had a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, it would turn their franchise around.
Yeah.
Look what happened. After 12 years with Detroit, Matthew Stafford is finally going to a Super Bowl just 1 year after his departure.
Yeah, his very
That
first year with the Rams, and look what he's doing. He's headed to a Super Bowl.
that tells me it wasn't the team. It was the
Agreed.
higher up. And I'm not blaming the coaching staff. They've had a great coaching staff over the years, and some of them have stayed there for a long time.
Well, yeah.
But let's get to it. Matthew Stafford beating the Rams in a or Matthew Stafford with the Rams beating the San Francisco 49ers in an absolute stunning fourth quarter comeback. What the heck happened in this game?
A lot.
I would not have predicted this outcome at halftime.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have either. It was too close at halftime to predict. And here we are with the Rams ending up coming out in the second half and doing exactly what they needed to do just to make it to the Super Bowl.
It's sad to say, but they did just enough.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when you're going to go play in a Super Bowl, just enough isn't going to cut it.
Well, on that topic, I had just read an article it was kind of a joke article, that the whole reason that Kansas City did not make it to the Super Bowl, and like I said, it was a joke article that I read, was they were told to throw the game just so the Rams had an opponent that they could beat in the Super Bowl. So, whether that's true or not, I don't know. But if that is, that's kind of, in my mind, a little pathetic on the NFL's doing to have a team throw a game just because they want somebody that will, as I took it, easier to beat for the Rams in the Super Bowl instead of trying to make a game out of it.
Well, and if you're going to throw a game away, why wouldn't it be the wild card game to leave Pittsburgh out of the playoffs?
Yeah.
That's the easiest game you could have thrown away.
Yeah.
Let it end in a tie.
Agreed. Definitely agree.
But on that topic, Joe Burrow, he's becoming one of the greatest quarterbacks that are coming out of the last 5 years.
Yep.
There's really no doubt in my mind that everybody was sleeping on Cincinnati this year.
Oh, most definitely.
They did the exact same thing when Joe Burrow transferred out of Ohio State and went to LSU. They didn't know who he was, and they were just like, okay, he's our starting quarterback. Let's go. Let's just watch and see how it goes. And then a couple games in, holy crap, this guy's good. It's like, don't give him that extra motivation, because he'll burn you. And he did that. Erasing a 21-3 first half deficit to beat the Chiefs 27-24 in overtime goes to show you that Joe Burrow very well could be another GOAT.
Oh, I definitely agree with you.
And yeah, people are saying about Patrick Mahomes, he's a great quarterback. They both are. To be completely honest, they both are. But whether it's true or not, Kansas City overlooked them and overplayed them.
Yeah.
Because they slept on them thinking this was going to be an easy win, and it ended up biting them in the ass.
Yeah, it definitely came back to bite them in the ass. Um, to prevent them from going to the next Super Bowl. So, like I said, whether it was intentional or not, I would hope it's not intentional for the simple fact that that's poor business.
I'm gonna read the last two paragraphs of this article that I read. Evan McPherson's 31-yard field goal in overtime sealed the Bengals' trip to the Super Bowl and capped a comeback that appeared near impossible against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The Chiefs had never lost a game when they had led by 18 plus points under Patrick Mahomes in the regular season or postseason. They entered Sunday's game with a 28-0 record in those instances. Per NFL research, no team in NFL history has overcome a halftime deficit of 10 plus points to win multiple games against the same opponent in a single season that includes the playoffs until the Bengals did this season. Cincinnati trailed by double digits in week 17 when they won over Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. You beat a team from behind, coming from behind, twice in a single season by over 10 points or more from coming from behind by over 10 points or more.
Right?
That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's definitely mind blowing.
I, something's got to like. I don't know who to turn to in the locker room. Like, first things first, talk to your captains. Like, they're the leaders of this team. What happened that you guys overlooked Cincinnati and gave up two 10-point plus leads to the same team and lost?
Yeah, and that happened in week 17 too.
Just, yeah, like weeks before this game, you played them and you're shocked by that they came back and won again?
Yeah.
I'm shocked that they did it again, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I
It,
definitely agree. That's one of those things that's like it's not lightning doesn't strike twice in the same spot. But apparently for Kansas City, it struck twice in the same spot.
like, it was, when I watched week 17, that was a mind blowing comeback win to begin with. But this is a different, like, completely absurd circumstance to where it's not surprising or mind blowing. I don't even know what the correct word is. I don't even know if there is one.
Right? Yeah, it's for for them to take and be able to, how do I put it, make a comeback by double digits twice on the same team within what, a month or two of the games is phenomenal, and somebody needs to sit down and have a conversation with them, because how is somebody or some team able to do that on you? You should have learned from the first time on what you got, the team itself did wrong, and correct it, and they didn't.
Yeah. I'm sure the head coach of Kansas City is going to sit down with his captains and his quarterback and be like, okay, what happened?
Yeah.
You guys tell me because you were out there on the field. You tell me what you saw. And I better hope they give the right answer because the film don't lie.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's and you could tell the first half Kansas City was dominating that game. I mean, dominating that game. And in the second half, I think what? They were held to a handful of points, if that.
3 points.
Yeah. So they were held to a field goal the whole second half. Like, how do you go into halftime winning a game that is in your hands to win
And is
keep
literally
blowing it?
yours to lose. Yours to lose, and they ended up doing it.
Yeah. All they had to do was
Kneel the ball 3 times in front.
Yeah.
Run the clock out.
Yeah, exactly. And it's surprising that a team of that caliber would lose a game that was pretty much theirs to win. Like, you shouldn't be losing that type of game when you're up that big and by halftime.
Yeah. So, that being said, our Super Bowl is set. The Los Angeles Rams will play in their home stadium and play the Cincinnati Bengals. Only the second time in history where a team will play on their home turf. Tampa Bay did it last year. Los Angeles gets to do it this year.
Yep.
Who's your prediction?
I'm going to go. I'm going to go big on this one. LA Rams are going to win it. I'm not going to give a score prediction because at this point it could be anything. And I'm going to go as far as Matthew Stafford is going to get the Super Bowl MVP.
I would have to agree with you on that. On both aspects. On all three aspects, I should say. Los Angeles wins it. No score prediction because who the hell knows? And Stafford gets MVP.
Yep.
So here's a topic that I'm going to throw out there now, which brings us to one of them. But since Jim Harbaugh did not get the job at Minnesota, currently the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams is in the running to be the head coach. If he gets the job and is accepted, does Matthew Stafford go to Minnesota with his offensive coordinator?
I don't think so. And for the simple fact that, okay, yeah, your offensive coordinator goes to Minnesota to become the next head coach. He's not going to have the same players around him, the same offensive line, all that was built to be built around him. So, with that in mind, no, I do not think Matthew Stafford would go to Minnesota at all.
Yeah. There are talks about the Green Bay Packers offensive coordinator going to become a head coach somewhere. Does Aaron Rodgers follow him and leave the Packers for good?
Honestly, unless if Green Bay goes into a rebuild stage, I don't see Aaron Rodgers going anywhere. If he does, the only place I see him going is to retirement at this point, or Denver, since there has been lots of talk of him and one other player going to Denver recently. So if he's going to any team, it's probably going to be Denver.
And Denver does have the cap space, whereas Green Bay is significantly over the cap. So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of coaching decisions that have to be made in the NFL now.
Yep.
Just like it was in college about a month and a half ago, now it's the NFL's turn.
Well, yeah, exactly, and it doesn't help that some of the coaches that went to fill NFL spots were college coaches, and that's why they had what happened in the college world of, well, now we have spots that need to be filled in head coaching spots. Well, now
Yeah.
we're having the same problem still in the NFL where coaches are being fired and spots are going to need to be filled. Who's going to fill them? Who's next up? who's worth that head coaching spot or offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator spot. I would
And
say at best it's gonna be till the combine before we get any of those answers.
yeah, and a great example is former defensive coordinator Mike McDonald. He came to Michigan for 1 year,
Yep,
and now he's back in the NFL.
yep. If I remember right, he went to the Baltimore Ravens.
He did to go work for Jim's brother John.
Yep.
So I don't know what it is that makes uh, whatever his reasoning is on him. But if you're gonna go from one brother to another, something had to have happened, and
Well,
I don't know what.
I had read that um Jim Harbaugh actually highly recommended him to his brother to interview him. So honestly, I don't think really anything happened. I think what it came down to was the Baltimore Ravens needed that spot filled, and Jim Harbaugh was like, I could use this guy, but I'm also going to look out for my brother, so I'm going to recommend you for the job.
But here's a question that brings to my point since you just made that. If he highly recommended him, what does that tell you about his confidence in Michigan's defense with a brand new coach?
I mean, it could still be confident. It all depends on what the next coach brings in for the culture of the team and his playbook for the defense. Um, it all comes down to the players, and I firmly believe that Jim Harbaugh believes in his players and will put in the time, the heart, and the effort to make sure that they are going to be back to where they were this year.
And I would hope that that stays the same. Yes. My next question would be, if you want the defense to stay the same after all these antics that you just did, would you promote a defensive coach to be the defensive coordinator, or or would you promote a defensive coach who already knows the guys and who the guys already know and trust, and then bring in a new coach to just coach one of the defensive areas for the time being, or do you leave everything alone and go out and get a brand new defensive coordinator and recreate your defense?
I guess it would all depend on who they were looking at to fill the spot. Yeah, they could take somebody that's already in the organization, already has bought into the culture, which would be best to do. But there's probably defensive coordinators out there that can do the job that the recent coach that has left done, or may even do it better, to the fact that it will push the defense above the hump to be able to compete with an SEC team. Because at this point, yeah, Michigan made playoffs. The only way they're going to be able to go over that hump is if they get somebody in there on defense and even offense that is going to be able to be competitive with the SEC teams and be able to bring in the recruits like Alabama and Georgia does year in and year out.
Yeah, and it battling with those types of teams is tough because they have different facilities and different types of money, basically, that the Big Ten does not.
Well, exactly, and they have people with deep pockets that donate money to those colleges. So it's almost like having a blank check and telling the school whatever number you need, put it on there. I'll flip the bill.
And that's basically what this day and age has come to is these kids are now eligible to make money while they're in college rather than waiting till their NFL careers. So those big money boosters and those big sponsors are willing to throw money their way. So that's it. The whole college era has changed because of that in the last year and a half, I want to say, to 2 years.
Oh, I totally agree.
And I honestly feel like if that's what it's going to take, a lot of these Michigan alumni are going to have to step up and empty their pockets a little bit more than even though they already have donated quite a bit.
Well,
If we
exactly.
if Michigan wants to get back to the college football playoff and beat Ohio State on a consistent and regular basis, it more money. That's all it is. Donate more money, give more money, so we can get those top 5 recruits that is on everyone's board.
Yep. I totally agree with that. 100% agree with that. Ugh. What about Brian Flores? It sounds like he's suing 3 NFL teams and the NFL themselves.
This has been going on for days, and in the office, this is all that's being talked about on First Take, Get Up, Sports Center, and even the Paul Feinbaum show. This has become a hot topic because, in a way, it's a true statement. If I'm not mistaken, there's only one black head coach in the NFL.
Yep.
The rest of them are minority coaches, and I think there's only a good handful of them in a predominantly player player based. You have the majority of their players being who they are, and there's a lot of coaches out there that need a fair shot. I just I actually read an article today, but I don't remember where. Whereas before Brian Flores and former Lions coach Jim Caldwell interviewed for another head coaching job, they had already the organization had already picked the next head coach and only interviewed them because they had to.
Right.
Now, the NFL does have a rule that you must interview all eligible candidates. But the problem is that's the gray area. Just interview them. It doesn't say give them a fair shot. It just says to interview them. And that's what Brian Flores is going for. And I firmly believe that he has a valid point. Now, the 3 organizations that he's suing, along with the NFL themselves, are all denying the allegations, which is, I want to say, the easy answer because everyone's going to deny allegations against them.
Right.
But it's all going to come down to an investigation. And this investigation could go a long time because they have to interview, I, I want to say, almost everybody in the hiring committee that has had Brian Flores' resume since he was denied a job a long time ago. I don't know when he wanted this to start, but I was told it's like 38 pages long, this entire lawsuit, if not longer. Um, and on top of that, he was saying that the Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, offered him $100,000 for each loss in 2019 to help with the team's draft position. If you want to be paid to tank a season, you're in the wrong business. I firmly believe that all these players that go to the NFL want to win a Super Bowl. There's no doubt in my mind. That's the dream.
Well, yeah.
A lot of the coaches want to win a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford said it in an interview. I'm here to play for the Super Bowl. I'm here to win Super Bowls. Tom Brady won 7 of them. Ben Roethlisberger won 2 of them.
Yep.
Why would an organization want to continuously have bad seasons and pay them for them just to help a draft position? I don't understand it. Why have continuously losing seasons and have players' confidence be so low to the ground that they're not able to be picked up and dusted off and keep going? I think that's why players would leave the NFL more than just retirement and because of old age. They don't want to play for losing teams.
Well,
They're,
yeah, it's hard for them to be motivated when at the end of the year they're not in contention for a playoff spot or even for a Super Bowl. And okay, yeah, you make this money, but at the same time you still have this goal of getting into the postseason. And when you're sitting there season in and season out not getting there, what's the point of playing for that team? And if they're not willing to release you or trade you to another team, what's the point of staying in the league then?
yeah, and I I truthfully think that that's partially one of the reasons why Jacksonville failed so much this past year was because there wasn't any NFL experience on that coaching staff. If
Exactly.
I'm not mistaken, Urban Meyer hired a lot of college coaches to fill his positions.
I believe you are right.
In the NFL, the the history of college coaches to NFL records says it all. If you don't have coaches that know the NFL way, you're not going to win. You have to adapt to their playing style. They don't adapt to you. You adapt to them.
Yep.
And that that I it showed out on players' frustrations. You watch Jacksonville all year long, the players are frustrated because they're trying to play a game of football style that doesn't belong in the NFL. It's not NFL style of play. They played college ball
Yeah.
basically all year, and it showed.
Yep.
Not just because of Urban Meyer and his antics, which didn't help much, but because of what he thought he could do. He thinks he can change the game. You can't change the game of the NFL. The NFL is there to stay.
Well,
You
exactly. You have to adapt to the NFL, not the NFL adapting to you.
It's one thing to go to college and change the game of college football. That's been done every year for the past 20 years. Every 20 years, the game changes. Hell, there's a rule change every year. There aren't many rule changes happening in the NFL year round.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, we both agree that there's a few rules out there that do need to be changed in the NFL, and I would hope that the board and everybody that works for the NFL would look into changing those. But it's definitely not like college where it seems like every time you turn around, the college scene has rather added a rule or tweaked a rule or even removed a rule to try to make the game better for everyone.
Yeah. Uh, but going back to this Flores lawsuit, um, Bill Belichick texted Flores, and when you've worked under Bill Belichick, you've earned a type of respect. And when he throws your name in the book in the hat for head coaching vacancies, you'd want to listen to Bill Belichick.
Well, yeah.
And when the Buffalo Bills and the New York Giants are calling your name, you listen. Uh, Unfortunately, whoever brought him in for those interviews wasn't the one to hire him, which I think is wrong because it goes back to the Rooney Rule.
Okay.
You are the NFL's Rooney Rule requires terms requires teams to interview minority candidates for their open positions.
Yeah.
That So you're going to interview coaches just because that rule is in place and really just go your own way. You This rule was supposed to be set up so that you can't have your mindset set on one person before you even interviewed all the candidates. That is one of the rules that I think is going to change once this floors thing comes full circle.
Well, yeah, and I would hope it would.
I'm curious to see how long this will go, and I encourage fans of the NFL and the names of the NFL to speak up and tweet out once this comes full circle, because the NFL is nothing without fans and those big names. Those people are what would help change the game. When Tom Brady, I'm giving these as great examples. Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger, when they came into the league, they changed how the NFL game was played because of their quarterback style of play.
Right.
When Tom Brady was drafted, I think he was maybe 5 foot something, about 180 something soaking wet. He
Okay.
built himself to be a great quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger came in a lot better, but he had the talent. He was gone right from the get go. Tom Brady worked for it. That changed how they viewed quarterbacks. Now you get guys like Patrick Mahomes and um, Justin Fields and a Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow. They come in ready to go. They don't have to work, I should say, for the starting position as much as Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady did. The
Right.
teams have worked themselves to where they got their college quarterback to come right in and be the starting quarterback.
Yeah,
I
and that makes a big difference too.
That's how this game has changed so much, is because 20 years ago the NFL was one way and you got drafted, you learned from the starting QB, and then once he was gone, you stepped up.
Right.
Now teams know who they want for their starting quarterback, so they draft accordingly in the years prior, and then when they get the quarterback they want, they're set in stone. They're golden. They're going to go to the Super Bowl. They're going to win championship games, and it's showing.
Well, yeah, it's definitely showing, and it's showing in a big way. And I think other teams need to take notice and maybe mimic that if they are struggling to get anywhere.
Baker Mayfield, I firmly believe, is in the running with over the next 2 years to possibly be in a Super Bowl area.
Yeah.
He's he's done his time. And look what Cincinnati, they haven't been to a playoff in I don't know how many years.
Yep.
Joe Burrow brought him.
Cincinnati last time they were in a Super Bowl was 1988.
So almost 30 years.
Yep.
Joe Burrow did it in two.
Yep.
The era of college to NFL quarterbacks has significantly changed. You didn't see that 20 years ago. And with these head coaches that need their fair shot, deserve their shot, because that's who's going to change the game in the NFL.
Yeah.
I said before, you can't change the game of the NFL. You can with the right coaches behind the wheel, because they will coach those college kids to be NFL players and play the NFL style of play, to that team's style of play. So to actually correct myself, to that team's style of NFL play. You can't mimic another team in the NFL. That's how you can change the NFL. Be your own team, but be your own NFL team. Don't be a college team in the NFL. Be your own NFL team with your quarterback and around his style of play.
Yeah. I definitely agree with you on that.
What do we got next on our list? I keep
MLB.
talking. Oh yes, another hot topic. The Hall of Fame voting was 2 weeks ago, and Barry Bonds, on his first year on the ballot, was elected to go to Cooperstown. First year on the ballot.
Yeah, that I mean, I believe he deserves it. He's had a very rewarding career with, I believe, what, Boston Red Sox.
That's correct.
That, yeah, I believe he deserves to be on the ballot for Hall of Fame. I believe he deserves to get it on his first time being on the ballot.
I would agree with that statement as well. However, there are two names that were left off, well, that did not get in, that I don't think will ever be able to get in because it was their last year on the ballot.
Okay.
And this is constant debate over the last 5, 10, 15 years, however many years you're eligible to be on the ballot, that Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds are not able to get into the Hall of Fame. Now, I've heard and I've seen and I've read that Barry Bonds was the best hitter and probably will be the best hitter of all time, and no one will ever pass him.
Right.
That may be true. However, that era was different compared to the era that we live in now. Same thing with Roger Clemens. He came a little bit after Barry Bonds, but the time sense was different. Performance enhancing drugs weren't illegal like they are now during their time. Yes, there were some steroids that were illegal, but the ones that they used weren't illegal at the time, which really brings the question, is this ethical? Are we really going to punish Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens for doing performance enhancing drugs when it was not illegal during their present time?
Right.
And everybody has their own opinions on it, which if they let them in, then that's going to bring up a whole nother argument because way back in the early 1900s, the Chicago Blackhawks scandal, or the Black Sox scandal, excuse me, where Shoeless Joe Jackson and his team was accused of taking bribes to throw the World Series.
Right.
Now, yes, accepting bribes and tanking a season was illegal at that time. But that was never proven. They went to court and they got the jury ruling and they weren't found guilty. So a question aside from the performance enhancing drugs that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens did is, are you really going to punish Shoeless Joe Jackson and his team from some of their players getting in the Hall of Fame when nothing was actually proven that
Well,
they accepted
exactly.
bribes? It's like all of these questions really can't be answered until something happens. It'll be a domino effect.
Well, yeah, definitely agree with you on that. Something needs to be done, but at the same time, if one player is going to get punished, everybody has to that has done that.
Right, and that's the domino effect. If we're going to have the same ruling, then other people are going to get hurt and they're not going to get their way. Now, I will say that Roger Clemens did do an interview, and I did read this article that he said the Hall of Fame he could care less about now. Regardless whether he got in or not over this last year, he said he didn't care over the last few years because it didn't mean anything to him. He's more focused on his family, which I think is the right way to go. Excuse me, the right way to go. Yes, it would be nice to see him in the Hall of Fame, but I think you have a better chance of seeing what kind of person he is the way his sons come up and play the game of Major League Baseball. One of his sons is currently in the Detroit Tigers organization, that very well could be up at the Tigers level at Major League Baseball next year or the year after permanently.
Yeah.
He was in he was in low A, single A ball back in 2018, and he bounced up and down from double A to triple A this past year. And if he continues to grow like he is, the Tigers organization is going to have a hard time keeping him out of the lineup.
Well, yeah. And with that being said, they're gonna have a hard time keeping him with the organization too.
Exactly. So, yeah, the Hall of Fame might not mean anything anymore to Roger Clemens, uh, but I think that he's going to show you what type of person he really is by the way he's bringing up his sons in Major League in the baseball organization. I think that's a bigger testament to his character and his personality than baseball ever did when he played.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And to the last topic, the PBR came to Grand Rapids this past weekend. I was gracious enough to be able to go to it. There was 4 or 5 guys in it from Michigan. One of them being from Carsonville, Michigan, by the name of Hunter Ball, who was first out the gates in round 1 from the chutes, setting the bar for the entire night and making top 10 to be able to get into the championship round on day 2. Um, the kid is 22 years of age in a professional sport that I would go as far as saying is probably deadlier than playing in the NFL or even in hockey. I think it sits up there with like the MMA or boxing, to where you're getting hit and you don't really have all that much protection on. He scored a 83 and a half according to the online standings in the round 1. He didn't score in the second round, and he didn't score in the championship round because, as most people know, when you bull ride, you got to be on that bull for 8 seconds, which is fast, but at the same time, when you're on an animal that's reaching 1,000 pounds and trying to ride it for 8 seconds, that's probably the longest 8 seconds of that rider's life. But with that being said, him being a hometown rider, he's ranked 74th in the world out of 82 riders. He's on a losing streak right now, which kind of sucks. He has 59 points. He's rode 19 bulls in this season in his career. He's earned $17,000. He's had one ride that scored 90 points or higher. His ride percentage is 23%, and he's won one event in his career. His current rank is 135th with world points of 1.25 points. For being 22 years of age in this sport, he has, I'm going to say, a very short career, because typically you don't see riders in the PBR going past the age 30. There's probably a handful of them that are past the age of 30 that are still riding in this sport. And being able to, as he put it, performing in a career that he's had a long life dream about, he ended up going to college on a bull riding scholarship, and being able to do something like that is phenomenal. But it's, I guess I'd have to say, for a 22-year young kid to be riding right around 1,000-pound animal with horns, hats off to any one of those riders because they're putting their bodies on the line every time they get on a bull. They get kicked off of the back of that, they're at risk of being mauled, trampled, or even possibly speared by one of those horns.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I didn't know that bull riding scholarships were a thing.
I didn't either. There was
Like it.
2 or 3 guys there that went to college on bull riding scholarships, and I'll even go as far as there was 2 kids, literally kids. They were 18 and 19 years of age riding with these guys that were high school bull riding champions of their state.
Like I'm a great example of not knowing a scholarship existed is that one right there. But also, Alma College has this, and I didn't know it existed until one of my friends actually got it. There are certain schools, and Notre Dame is another one, that play bagpipes frequently and are in bagpipe competitions.
Really?
Now, every year during Memorial Weekend, Alma College hosts hundreds and hundreds of bagpipers and bands throughout the world to come and perform a mass band ceremony and performance. A lot of them come from the United States, but from various schools. The rest of them come from Canada, Ireland, Scotland, and other various places.
Okay.
There is something called the Bagpiper Scholarship that schools offer to come and play bagpipes for 4 or however many years you want to be at that school. To be offered a bagpipe scholarship is very similar to just a music scholarship, but it's a different type of music scholarship in a sense that it's a rare scholarship to be offered because not a lot of schools that are at the collegiate level have bagpipers, I would believe.
Right.
Let alone how many high schools would have a bagpiper.
Yeah.
The rarest of instruments, in my opinion, found in a high school marching band.
Yeah. Well, it brings up the topic of how there's rare scholarships out there for stuff that you wouldn't even think of, like bagpipe playing, bull riding. It's definitely something that you wouldn't think of.
No, and for a lot of these high school kids that are looking for scholarships outside of academics, whatever schools that you're looking into, dig deep because I can personally guarantee you that what is shown in a brochure isn't everything that they're offering. There's more. They just want you to dig deep and find it.
Yep.
Because if you put in the effort, that tells the school what type of student you are and how successful you'll be in their program. So they're willing to fork over some more money for you. But if you just go with the bare minimum of, oh, my package is $38,000 for 4 years,
Yeah.
and is my I only got a $5,000 academic scholarship for my ACT and SAT score. Okay, that's fine. That's a mediocre student because you're accepting the fact that this is what they're offering you. Whereas you can have a different mindset and be like, okay, this is my original package that I received. What could I do more to shorten this package and make me pay less?
Right. Well, anyways, since we kind of went off topic, which is fine, we typically do that here at Sports Bros. I believe that's our show for this evening, unless if you have anything else you want to add.
Not to my knowledge. We covered all of our topics and non-topics.
And with that being said, remember everybody, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a break and have a sport.